Okay, so this is a video covering the first step of the suspension application for the Panther model. First thing you want to do is start out and punch out a bunch of 7mm hole punch discs from the same material that you put the Panther model on, just regular sort of cereal box cardboard, that approximate gauge. You don't want anything very extremely thick or thin, just sort of middling cereal box gauge cardboard. And you're going to need about 10 of these. So I've got that here for each model that you're doing. And once you've got those ready to go, you want to take your 1/16 drill bit. And actually it does sometimes help a little bit if you start these holes with a pen, just to make them a little bit more accurate. So like a sewing pen. It's nice to have one a little bit bigger than that, actually. That's a pretty small one. But it does help you not to slide off into where you don't want to go, especially since it's nice to have these holes in the accurate position. Now, you have to make these holes quite big because they're going to have to accept a wooden match. And since we're putting pressure on the model and holding it roughly right now, it's best to do this now rather than once we've got the start of the suspension on and the first of the delicate parts. So now what we actually need to be able to push through here is a wooden match, which is a little bit larger than the diameter even of a bamboo skewer. And it takes some doing because we're going to cut that match down before you slip it through. And that makes pushing it through the far end a lot more difficult later than it is now. So you just want to make these holes nice and big. And one thing you're trying to also avoid is if you start pushing too much material up and out, you can push it back in or trim it away, but try to avoid pushing the actual sides off when you're doing this. Once you got those to an acceptable size, where you feel like, yeah, if I cut this down to just a little bit longer than the size of the bottom of the chassis and slip it through, I'll be able to maneuver it and push it through. Once you're comfortable with that, then we're going to move on to using some 4:1 glue to attach these starts of the suspension bits. This is just the base that we attach everything else to. And only a little bit of it is visible. Most of it isn't really visible. And it's only visible really if you're really looking for it. So you can attach these ones glossy side in. The front is fine with glossy side in. It makes it a little bit easier to stick the stuff to there later. But these other ones, because this part is a little bit visible, I would recommend putting the glossy side out, because glossy cardboard does not accept paint well at all. It takes several layers, and sometimes it's just a pain. So I recommend putting that in on the rest of these. And try to be really accurate when you place them, because it's going to affect where all the other wheels sit in relation to them, or where all the wheels sit in relation to each other. And so accuracy here is helpful. I mean, it won't look horrible if you're a little bit off, but the way the bogies, I guess they're called, or the wheels sit on there is sort of dependent on each other's placement, and so a small error early can transform into a large weirdness later. So it's best to keep the beginning stages accurate and then let the errors happen later when they're less catastrophic. glue on there. And right after we're done putting these on, we're just going to put a quick coating of 2-to-1 glue, which is a lot thinner. It's like the consistency of cream. It's a lot closer to water than it is glue, even though it's mostly glue. It makes it really, really thin, but that's fine because we don't want it to glom on or anything. We're just trying to, and actually with that much water into it, it sort of infuses the cardboard a little bit and makes these parts really, really durable. And it's actually a thing we're going to do to the whole model later on, but right now it's only really important that we hit all of these and hit them all the way around. So, because what we're actually mostly trying to prevent is them peeling apart, which is a real pain later on. Like the actual wheels will come off because these things have delaminated and just started to separate, and it's not a nice effect. It's a lot easier to fix now and well, defend from now than it is to fix later. So once you've got that on, you're done this step. You can set that aside to dry.